So hi, everyone, and welcome to the SAP Book Club. And today we have two great authors with us, and they wrote, wait a minute, they wrote the book, here we go, Designing Dashboards with SAP Analytics Cloud. Everybody see that one? And I have had so much fun with this book. I've been doing some crazy promotions. I had a python wrapped around my neck, one picture, and then I'm dressed like an elf in the next picture. So it's like a little crazy. And but I do want to say that, you know, this can't be done just with me making crazy pictures of myself all over the internet. I do want to give some shout outs to some people before we start. So thank you, Janelle and Frank, for all of their designs and making this Zoom call happen. And I also want to thank Kay Larkin. She's always been there for me and she cheers me on each day. So go Kay. And Aja Walks from SAP Press, who believed in my idea. And she always laughs at all my crazy posts. So she's so funny. And also Colin Scuffins. He is our new Irish friend at SAP who is over the global lead for communications and video, who's also been great at helping promote our event. So thank you, Colin. And he's got this great Irish accent. And then we also have, we started our event where we were going to have Eric on the call with us, Eric Bertram. And he is one of the authors, and he's also from Germany. And he's the director and head of operations and user insights and BTP design. And so Eric is a theoretical astrophysicist. So and he does like the quantum field theory, string theory. And if anybody has ever watched The Big Bang Theory, I'm thinking Sheldon, right? So that's what, however, here's my theory. I think that Eric was in his penthouse, all glass around, and he heard somebody in his apartment, and he was working on some kind of like theoretical astrophysics string theory thing. He got worried, grabbed his briefcase, ran downstairs, jumped in his Lamborghini, and thought, I'm going to Nico's house. But I'm going to outrace them on the Autobahn. So he's racing through the Autobahn and accident. So that's why he's not here with us. So he was.
We wish him the best, but we talked to him earlier. I talked to him earlier today. He's all right. So he's getting better every day.
But that's my thing. I think of him as like 007. That's my
not wrong.
I bet he's got a really cool car too. I just somehow think Eric, cool car. Anyway, but we miss you, Eric. We all wish you the best and happy recovery and so forth. So now let's get to our two authors that we have here. So let's start with Melanie. Tell us about yourself.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so my name is Melanie Holzapfel, and I'm in Eric's team at SAP. And my background is as well physics. So I'm not doing theoretical physics, but I've done computational physics. So a bit different direction. And now at SAP, I'm also in the BTP design org, basically. I'm working there as data scientist and chief of staff. So working with data and dashboards is a really big part of my daily life. And on top, I'm an IBCS consultant, which means I won't talk about dashboards without talking about IBCS, because I'm really thrilled about these parts. And I'm sure we will cover it later on as well in this talk.
Perfect. Excellent. And Nico?
I'm leading the BTP design organization for SAP. So I'm leading a global team of designers, UX people, design operations, user assistants, user research, And I was also responsible for building SAC, the tool, from a UX perspective. So I'm still leading the UX team. It's a way bigger organization right now, but we started building SAC from scratch with some great folks in the UX team that are still around here at SAP.
Yeah, aren't you? You're over the product, right?
The product design, yes, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, and you're a VP now?
I'm a VP, yeah.
Ooh, heading on up there, I'm telling you. So, so anyway, when I always get authors and they're from Germany, and all of us over here in the US, we always think, oh, Germans. We have no idea. What do Germans do? I'm from the South, So I thought it would kind of be fun. And so, Melanie, tell us something about yourself.
So perhaps some basic stories about myself are that I do like to count something and to measure something. And one really practical example is that I did run half marathons a couple of times now. And measuring the time is a really big part for me, and setting goal or target times and then achieving them or not achieving them is a big thing for me. And yeah, my best time so far was 2 hours and 4 minutes. And these 4 minutes, they're still annoying me till this day because I want to be below 2 hours one day. So perhaps next year I'm going to beat this time. Let's see.
So you're a big runner. Whew, gracious. Well, what about you, Nico?
Yeah, I'm into road biking, and since it's cold outside, I've mounted the bike here inside, and I don't know. I shared something with Frank, and he can show it on the screen if that is possible. A little story that I want to share with you. How I combined my hobby on the bike with my curiosity about data. All these things, everybody who's into road biking, bike computers, where you have little dashboards mounted on your bike. And what I did is I went on a bigger bike trip. It was from Heidelberg, where I currently live, to the wine area where I was growing up. That is the Mosel Valley, for the wine people here in the audience who know that very famous Riesling wine region there. It's about 200 kilometers. And so that was the first time I was doing such a long ride at one day. And so my computer, the measures helped me, but I also I was drawing a little map. And you see that map, I had it with me on paper in case all the batteries went down and so on. So you see here, and we probably talk about more of that, about how to build dashboards, how to work with data. And this is a little paper prototype I used during the ride. You see all the cities on the road. Then you see the kilometers, so how far it went, and you see the profile. And that was important for me because you see here the biggest hills, the peaks, they came at the end of that trip. And I was very happy that I had this map and I could fill my water bottles and plan some more rest time by the end of that trip. So I'm into road biking and like to ride a bike in the summertime, and in the winter, probably even indoors then. Yeah.
And to all our US friends, that is equal to 129 miles.
Is that true? Yeah.
I'm like, what is that? Okay, whoops, let's do it back to the US conversion. Yeah, 129 miles is a long ride. Oh my gosh. I can't even imagine. That's crazy.
Yeah, so, but it was really, I believe it was still COVID, and I felt so happy to be alone outside and not in the home office, in meetings. And so it was a really great day. Yeah.
But that's a perfect real life example of why dashboard design is so important.
Yes.
You're able to say, hey, let me think about how I use my life and how it's important and what can I do. And so I think that's great. So that's kudos on the perfect. All right. So let's talk about the book. So what makes this book different from other dashboard design books? What do you
Perhaps
think?
I can start there. So one part about the book we really wanted to cover is the full journey. So we were in touch with many customers in the last years and have seen different dashboards, different good dashboards, not so good dashboards. We've created internally a ton of dashboards. Of course, we need to measure as well. Like in SAP, we have some KPIs that we have to measure, that we want to compare. And we figured out that there are many different people involved in creating the perfect dashboard, so to say. And we've realized that often some of these parts are dropped out a little bit. So, for example, a user research part is a really big part of dashboard design in the beginning. Then the full creation process, how to really create single parts in the book, in the dashboard. And therefore, we wanted to cover in our book really the full end-to-end process. So not only creating dashboards, not only doing user research, and not only working with SIC. Because in the book, we cover dashboards with SAP Analytics Cloud, we cover how to create the content, and we cover the beginning, how to figure out what you need to display, what you want to display in the full user research part. And that is one of the nice parts.
I actually really could appreciate your book in regards to the way it was, you know, you can just kind of go with it and just throw it together, but are you going to have user acceptance? You know, is it going to look good? Are they going to like it? Or can you actually think through the whole process and then come up with something that you can give it, you know, give them a little bit, see if they like it, give them a little bit more, and continue the process to gain the, you know, the user's like acceptance. And so I actually was like, you know, that's not a bad idea. I mean, we could all do that in our all, you know, just in general, what everyday life, you know. I'll just give you a little bit and we'll see if you like it and give me a little bit more and we'll take it from there. But no, the concepts were great. And I love the way that you broke it down into thinking like, you know, here's some great ideas of how to, you know, make this happen. So, you know, you have best practices. So when you, if you don't follow the best practices, what are some things? I mean, I've already said, you know, they don't like it, I ain't going to use it. So what are some of the other things that are happening if you don't follow best practices?
It can get even worse than not only people don't liking the dashboard, but having dashboards that aren't done according to best practices can increase errors and they decrease efficiency. So, for example, I've mentioned IBCS earlier on. They've done real like scientific tests on comparing dashboards in their style with just ordinary dashboards. And there they've realized that if you don't use best practices, then you're really way significantly less. If you use best practices, you're nearly 60% faster in doing your decisions, in making decisions, in understanding stuff, and you're over 60% less likely to make errors and mistakes. And I think that is a pretty good motivation to actually create good dashboards because you want to be fast. And of course, you want to have the right information and the right decision afterwards.
Yeah, and also, you know, if you don't follow like best practices, I also like the fact about how fast they would run. I never even thought about that. You know, like the time it takes to, you know, you actually have to look at that. I mean, you know, you don't want to create a dashboard and it takes 3 hours to load. I mean, so, you know, part of the whole process was doing that, looking at the, you know, the time it takes. So that was really interesting. And then the other thing that I loved was the overlook about design. All right, I never thought about it, but the colors, the placement. Who knew that if you look at a screen, the first thing you're going to look at is the middle of the page, and always put the important information up here, less important down here. Now every site I look at, I'm going to be doing that. You know, What do you guys, how did y'all figure this out? Was this something that?
So Melanie already talked about the importance of the user and a bit about design processes that we do day in and day out, because we both are part of a design department, and we use these best practices we do when we work on software, also when we want to guide our users to build their dashboards using SAC, using our tool here. And I could give a glimpse of what we have in the book. I shared also with Frank earlier today a little screen or a cheat sheet about the 10 golden rules of dashboard design. And maybe we can walk you through that little cheat sheet, because then we have both. We have on one hand side, we have the form factor, on the other side more the function factor. So what you see here will be in the first chapter of the book, and throughout the book there will be more about it. There is a famous saying in design: form follows function. So this is why you need to, when you work with it, you need to read it the other way around. So you usually start with chart types. And what we did here, we outlined some of the most important chart types or categories for chart types. The first one, and this is why I start here on the upper right corner with container. A table is probably the most important chart type and most simple chart type you can find. So with all table, be it in the database even, or just when you work with Excel, you can store data, you can read data there. And there is also an interesting aspect to tables when we talk about design. You probably all know things like heat maps. And when you have a heat map, then that is nothing else but a table where the most prominent, the highest values are highlighted. And in this way, you have a bit of a pattern recognition when you just look at such a table and imagine there would be all shades of blue or of green or a certain color here, you would see where the highest value in the table sits. Then, by far, I would say the most important chart type itself is a comparison chart. So be it a bar chart or line chart, but since Melanie talking about IBCS, the International Business Standards of Communication, where we also get many insights we also used for the book, or many ideas. So the comparison is usually the most important thing you need, and you have bar charts here or column charts that you use. Then the next thing is, we call it context. When you put something in a bigger context, for example, part of a whole, you can use a tree map, or, and this is what this icon should here highlight, a stacked bar, for example. This would be very handy, for example, for budget distribution. If you just show what are the biggest chunk where your budget go, for example, per country, if you have a stacked bar. If you have a tree map, you have just one big illustration or one big graphic. Then the next one that is heavily used by our customers, we called it, to stick to this little game here, always start with a C. We call it continent, but it is for sure the Geomap, something like that, you know, where you bind data geographically where it makes sense. And one thing you need to watch out, this is why in this little icon here, you see these bubbles. Watch out for something we call, or that when you work with data, you call the lie factor, coming from Tufte, the lie factor. You need to watch out for a truthful scale. That depends for the comparison chart here as well. The scale needs to be right, otherwise you will confuse your viewers. And the same is also with the Geomap. Imagine elections in the US, and you have a huge state with very little population. That can create the wrong impression. And this is why, if that would be the US, you need to put these bubbles on top that you see what is the population. For example, I don't know, maybe it is New York or California, and you have some states in the middle that are huge from a countryside perspective, but have little population, and that would be misleading. That would be what Tufte said when he was talking about the lie factor. Then the last category, we said the rest, you don't need them that often, but correlation and distribution. And here we are looking at a scatter plot, at a box plot, sorry, boxplot chart, and that is something, chart type, that you need when you want to look at distribution of set of measures. And this little dot that you can see here is an outlier. And outliers could be very interesting if you are a data scientist and you work with these chart types. Then have a look at the outliers, because often they reveal interesting data stories. So that was the right-hand side here, the functional side. And now more, you asked Kendall about design. We are very keen about design. So this is why we laid out a couple of rules how to design. So first, think about construction. It's a layout grid. Every designer thinks in grids. Design grid, layout grid. You have margins, you have gutters in between and columns. You need to make a plan, draw a grid, and then you can arrange your charts on top of that grid. Then you talked about color. Look after color theory, and especially look what it means to work with shades and tints. What I try to illustrate here is a tint. Tint is a color plus white. When it gets to white, imagine you would have a heat map. Take that example again. We can go to US elections here. You have blue or red, depending on the party. And then you work with shades. You make it light blue or dark blue if there are many voters or the elections went good for a certain party. And that is important. So pick one color tone, pick one color palette, and work with shades and tints to stay true to this very color palette. Then we outlined here contrast. So everything you do should be simple and neutral. Work with style guides you have in your company, for example. And on top of that, then work with semantic colors.
Habe ich die richtige Telefonnummer? Okay, gut. Ich habe deine Nachricht gesehen.
We have somebody on the line here, I guess. I have unmuted myself. Do you hear me again?
Yes.
Okay, great. So with contrast, as I said, simple and neutral, but stay true to your style guide in your company. And if you don't work for Coca-Cola and it's all red, then usually you have some important colors left. We call them semantic colors, like red or green. And they can help if you, for example, want to highlight something is good and something is bad in comparison to last year or to another category you want to compare it with. Then consistency and integrity. Also, I talked about style guides, same thing. Consistency, something that needs to work within your brand style of the company. And integrity, I have this little example here. You probably all know Barbara Minto and the MISI paradigm. When you work on a list, then watch out to make these lists or categories mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive. And I just showed that example. Imagine we would show a table here, be it, let's call it apples right now, like 30 apples in, I sold 30 apples in New York and 20 apples in Minnesota and 40 apples in California, and then this adds up only to 90 and not to 100, because I need to make it mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive. So make sure that you add the 10 others. Basically, maybe you have eaten them yourself, or I don't know, they went through the web shop and so on. That is a good example when you create a table that you need to make it mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive. And the last one, that is, we could talk about the whole hour about the last one, communication, we called it. That is all about usability, user experience. Think about who is your target group. What are the people you are designing for? And if you do that, work on a user journey. Is it an executive, or are it like as we have it for Corona, maybe the whole country, every citizens in the US or in Germany or in Europe who watch the news in the evening and learn about the latest numbers. When you do that, very important, or a good idea is to focus on the user's journey and design for the most exciting and final moments first. That is called the peak end rule. and it's coming from a famous book by Kahneman, the physicist, Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow. So peak end rule is a little hint here. And now I'm talking too much. I should stop and back to you.
Well, you know what I like. Oop, am I on mute? Nope.
I can hear you good.
Okay, good. So what I like about the ideas in the book is, you know, some people are like, oh, I'm going to design this, and it's like all crazy designs. And if you get like a standard design for your company, you can get like, you know, a designer to come in and put like a template design. So that you have your logo, you have it set up, you know, the color kind of thing going on. And then you can put in your charts and your and make it more consistent. I think that, you know, that's really cool to do that, because that helps out big time. And I love the part about when you're like, hey, I want to be a dashboard designer. How do I do it? You know, and you're like, first learn how to do bar charts and create charts. And once you've created the charting, then you go to the next step of who wants to see those charts? Why do they want to see those charts? But I definitely think talking to the users. And so I gave Nico and Melanie a challenge. I said, you know, what if Santa wanted a bar chart? I was like, do you like make Santa, you know, Santa a dashboard? I'm like, you know, he's got a lot of things he needs going on. So there was like yesterday, and these guys did this in like, what, 20 minutes or so? So I was very impressed with the output. So if Frank could put that up, let's see if he can show us Santa's chart. This kind of shows you an idea of like, you know, you have really good designers. They can pull up a lot of really neat stuff. And also, like you said, Nico, is like, you know, you're not supposed to like roll everything out right away, you know?
Yeah, you said it rightfully before. And that is part of, as I said, like I go to communication and this peak end rule drawing there. We could like have many other illustrations only in that field of communication, user research, user engagement, usability, you said it, acceptance tests. So in a nutshell, I don't know if the audience knows about design thinking and these famous diagrams where we have a problem space and a solution space and a problem space and a solution space, and we go back and forth the whole time. So one rule in designing together with your users is just start right away. Be it paper prototyping, just draw something, or if you have a tool like SAC, and maybe Melanie can tell the story what happens after you send the mail to us and we were saying, oh, what does she want? What can we do in a minute? So if you have a tool, you can also use the tool. But do that fast and then engage with your users. Is this what you mean? What are you after? What do you want to see? And do these iterations, as many as you can, to get the acceptance from the audience and to get the best possible results. Yeah.
Because like you said, if you do it wrong the first time, it's going to be really hard to get them to like it again.
Agreed. Some quotes never get a second chance to make a first impression. When you come with a final book or a final dashboard and not just a paper prototype or something like that. And the other famous quote by the architect, Frank Lloyd Wright, you can fix it now with a rubber or later with a sledgehammer.
Oh my gosh. So what kind of people are actually, like, if I'm going to set up a team, let's say like, you can do like a team, you can do like it yourself. You know, I saw that, you know, if you've got one guy that's pretty, you know, hey, I'm going to take it on. I mean, you know, it's a smaller company, but what type of team would you need to create dashboards for like big company?
You want to take this, Melanie?
I can. So basically there are different approaches to it. So could either talk about like really persona types, and that's what we've done in the book, to really talk about personas who were involved, or we can talk about skills and really like single skills that are required in here.
Let's talk about
And yeah, so basically
like skills, yeah.
Exactly. So for today, having this high-level skills approach is great. And there we have one other source of data science overview from was McKinsey, right, Nico?
Yeah, they had a good article about it. Yeah.
So that is a perfect article about data science and which skills are required. And in there, 6 different skills are identified, which can perfectly map to the parts we've described in the book as well. So the first is project management in general, because of course, we've talked about it is a long process to get from the first idea to the final part. So having someone coordinating the project is key. Then we have data wrangling, because in general, in dashboard design, in good dashboard design, you shouldn't start with what data do we have and let's just show it to our target audience. You should start with business questions. And then you need someone who's preparing all the data, who's gathering the data and who's cleansing it. So data wrangling is the second big skill. Then, of course, with data analysis, we need to like get insights out. We can't just get some data on there.
Oh, lost.
We lost Melanie.
Lost her.
We cannot hear you. I just continue. What did we had? We had project management and
data wranglers.
Data wrangling for acquiring, cleansing, loading. Data analysis, more like the exploration person who drills down. Also closely connected to a data journalist, probably somebody who really reveals stories out of data. And that goes hand in hand with somebody we could call a storyteller. Somebody who knows to narrate and tell stories with data. So from data scientist or analyst who's more technical to the person who does, I don't know, TED Talks or something like that, or is a journalist basically. And then most important, and that goes in the direction for whom are you working, like the domain matter expert. So subject matter expert, especially talking about COVID a lot, because it is a perfect example where you need dashboards. And here you have to have people who really understand statistics, medicine, vaccination, and all of that. If you work with data, then you have to have that expertise. So be it the people you communicate the dashboard to, or if we talk now Corona dashboards in the news, probably they will probably be designed together between like people who know statistics, like medicine people, and maybe people who know how to build dashboards, like designers or IT people. And then, the designers themselves. So designers and developers, people who either code or design the dashboards in the tools that we have.
Do you think you need like graphic designer kind of guys, or just, someone who's got an eye for design? Or
yeah, what can I say? I'm keen about graphic design, so you need a graphic designer for everything. Don't do anything without graphic designers. But honestly, since you don't have to have a degree in graphic design, if you have tools that can support and help you, and if you look at, for example, the rules we have here, look at other rules outlined by Stephen Few, by Tufte, by Rolf Hiechert in IBCS. There are some good books out there that can help you, that you don't get too crazy with colors and layout.
I like the layout part, because it has to be visually appealing in order for you to have user acceptance. That's the whole key here, is to get them to like it. Because if one person likes it, then the next person likes it, and then you can start continuing to develop more dashboards for the rest of your organization. And that's kind of the key to what this whole thing is like, how do you start off in the beginning to get the user acceptance to continue on?
Agreed. Melanie, are you still, the microphone seems to.
Let's see.
Okay, I'm switching. I hope there's.
That's great. You're back.
Okay, perfect. Then I'm doing it without the headphones. I'm sorry for that.
You need to messes up your hair.
Yeah, changing.
I know.
Yeah, I think one part there as well is depending on the software you're using, which person is actually building then a dashboard. So you could create a dashboard on paper, you can create it in visual design options, you can create it in SAC, and depending on the tool you use, there's again like slightly different skill required to build your final dashboard. But as Nico said, there are tons of great resources of how to really build the nice dashboard in terms of design and visual parts, and in terms of how to build it technically. And I think that's another point that exactly, that there is a lot of research done. So I think one of your other questions earlier on was, how did we figure out all these nice rules? So Nico's explained perfectly the 10 rules we've gathered in the book. And it would be nice to say that we came up with all of them on our own, but there is so much research already out. So Nico's mentioned many people like Tufte and many more. So that is research that is out for sometimes over 100 years, some of these visuals and storytelling and graphic visual data.
Another thing about your, like the dashboards when you were talking, you know, not only do they have to be visually appealing on a screen, but they also, because of technology nowadays, they have to be able to be seen on a cell phone. I mean, you know, you've got to have that look good. He's got his books. He lives in a library.
No,
but you have to have it look on your cell phone too. You just can't have it on a laptop.
Agreed. Before we get to the cell phone, and since we got crazy about books, we figured that in our research, that is a book from 1919. So all that we do is not new. Like people were doing it since ages, basically. So that is a book about presenting facts. So even before we had computers, people were doing it. So it's very, very interesting when you look at what people did with visualizations. So I'm sorry, I just got excited when we were talking about the great heritage in
I think it's
Infobis,
hilarious when people, I know, because people are like, oh, that's so new. And everybody's like, new? It's
not at all.
It's really linked to
we just renamed it. No. So what are other, like, why should we use SAP Analytics Cloud? Are there other things that people could use? Or, you know, give us the scoop. Like, what were they?
Melanie, or shall I?
What are people doing?
I can start with a part, and then perhaps Nico, you can follow up to it.
Sure.
So perhaps to talk firstly about general dashboard design, of course, that can be applied in any tool you want. So you can build your dashboard in any tool you want to do. But in SAC, so basically the great advantage is you can have tons of different data sources linked to it. So for example, if your company has already all databases from SAP, then it's really easy to just apply SAC to it and use the information, the metadata, all that kind. So that is of course nice. Then there's a lot of defaults linked to good dashboard design, a lot of IVCS defaults. I mean, of course, all the functionality. You've mentioned the phone, so you can not only use it on desktop and PCs and big screens, also on your phone. So I think that is a lot of stuff. And I mean, linking back to our book, we've described many practical examples, and all of our dashboards we will show in the book, or we have shown in the book, are done in SAC with a step-by-step guide. So I think coming from the book, it's really valuable to actually use SAC afterwards, because it's described for SAC the second half. And then general dashboard design, apply it wherever you create your dashboard.
And also, don't you, I mean, just like with SAP, everything can be integrated into SAP. And then pretty much you're grabbing the data, because it's in SAP, and creating them into the dashboards. So it's not like you're having to go out and use different applications else. You know what I mean? If SAP is already connected to it, then you've got the information.
Exactly. When we started a couple of years ago, there was that idea to create that sweet spot between BI, predictive, and planning, because often planning and BI applications are different. So we worked on one application for BI, predictive, and planning. And as you said, Like if you have BW data, SAP systems back here, and if you have the Intelligent Enterprise or S4 or other SAP applications, you can bridge that gap. In the middle, you design the dashboard in SAC, you connect to the SAP data sources and other data sources, and then you embed it into your S4 workflow. And that is the great advantage with Analytics Cloud. Yeah.
So what is the scary part that everybody's talking about, like cloud, analytics cloud? What, I mean, you know, is there something that's like, give me the scoop. I'm actors. I don't know. What is it all about? Why do you call it Analytics Cloud? What does this mean then?
Why is it called Analytics Cloud? Okay, okay, got it. So it was called Analytics Cloud because you are working. You compose the dashboard in your browser. Basically, it's a software as a service, and not like we had it in the old days where you went to a shop, you bought a CD, and you put it in your computer and you installed the software there. So it's a software and as a service, it runs in the browser. It's subscription based. So you try it out, you work with it. If you are happy, you continue after month. And if you don't use it anymore, you can also then say no subscription anymore. I'm done with the dashboards for now. COVID is over. I don't want the data. I go on my bike for a couple of months, and then you come back and you say, now I'm subscribing again. Now I'm back in the data game. I look at all the numbers from all the.
So this is not scary stuff. This is just literally is like a way to help companies get information that they definitely need and present it in a beautiful way that's eye-appealing, and that other people will want to do it again and, you know, complement it and kind of go forward and move. I think it's pretty cool, to be honest with you. And I like the fact that, you know, you don't have to be, you know, highly educated in this. I mean, you could be a novice and try this out and give it a go.
That is the idea. So for sure, if you have so many features, not everything is super easy. You get it right away. But in general, when we designed Analytics Cloud, we had other applications in mind that people are using frequently, be it like Excel or Word or Adobe Photoshop or these software, Figma for graphic designers. So this is what we had in mind when designing SAC, or when we start designing SAC.
Because don't you have some templates already in there as well that people can use?
Yes, maybe Melanie can talk about IBCS and these templates and what we have there, and because that is pretty neat, in my opinion.
Yeah, so basically there are already some templates in SAC, which are blank templates with some layouts and some different graphical, like predefined parts. And as Nico mentioned, IBCS templates are on the way. So they're today not yet in the system, but they're on the way, which is basically a blank template for 3 different scenarios where you can start with a pre-built structure, and you then only need to include your own data and do some tweaks, which is also explained in the template, which makes dashboard design way easier because you don't start with a complete blank page and you need to figure out everything on your own, but there's a lot predefined for you and a step-by-step guide on how to create your final perfect dashboard in there. So that is on the way. And yeah, in the meantime, a lot of companies are creating their own templates as well. So that's something we've talked about, like branding shortly before.
Oh, that'd be a good idea. Yeah, y'all should have a template competition.
Oh, yeah, it is something you can really like personalize. I mean, of course, it shouldn't be like too bright. That's something, one of the basic parts. Don't overload your dashboard with bright colors, with
lots different of information.
Exactly. I mean, for the branding, it can be done in a soft way. And in the header, for example, there are some spots where branding is perfectly fine. And then you can focus on the content. So if you have your branding on the top part in some decent colors, I would say, then you can really focus on the content without forgetting your personal branding in there.
Okay, Colin, if you're listening, the template competition, you've got to have, give me props for that, okay? So I have to be a judge. So Colin, I'm sure Colin's watching, so.
Frank, can you show that dashboard again, that Santa dashboard that Kendall asked us to do yesterday? And
Yes.
because there is a, even if there are no templates yet in the system, it is pretty easy to get this variance chart that you see here. So you see on the right-hand side that builder panel, you just connect the data source, you have the data here. Melanie can talk more to it. And then you have on the right-hand side various tools or the builder panel here. You say you want to have a comparison chart, and you can then build and create and change that variance chart to create the bar chart and make it a variance chart, like we know it from IBCS, and we outlined also in the 10 golden rules. And in this example, we said the top 5 gift wishes in million. So you see here that balls are getting some excitement in 21, in 22, in 20. Last year it was not so good. And we have other pieces like here, like Dollhouse. They are compared to last year, they are getting down. So people are keen about balls this year, it seems, when we look at that dashboard here. So not difficult to build even without templates.
I think we do this.
As Nico mentioned, something like the variances and these parts, that is already like pre-built in a way that you have positive and negative parts, because you really want to highlight the variance. You want to highlight the difference to a target, to your plan, to the previous year. And that is already done automatically, that you highlight the variance with bright colors. And we strongly recommend to not highlight your normal actual colors with bright colors, because you want to see the difference. And yeah, therefore don't overload colors on your normal bars.
Oh, mine would be like pink and purple, and I would have fun. So show us like a crazy, like, because you showed me one of the athlete.
You talking to me?
Yeah, remember the athlete?
You asked me when we discussed what to talk about, if there is something I'm proud of that.
Yeah, this was
SAP.
pretty cool. Yeah, so I wanted you to show this.
Yeah, sure, Frank. If you can share that little piece that I knitted together to illustrate that story, and then I can talk to it. I don't know when what is 22 now, 21. It was 5-6 years ago when we were working on a football case, the football soccer story. Yeah, here now I can talk to it. So there was a very interesting project. You see here Julian Nagelsmann and myself. We were presenting, and there was an interesting project where the U19 squad in Hoffenheim. Julian Nagelsmann, by the way, is today the head coach of Bayern Munich, one of the biggest football clubs on the planet. So he was back then coaching the youth squad of Hoffenheim, and there was a project where we worked. They had sensors in their shin guards and in the ball. So we called it player performance, and we did evaluations and live evaluations with the players. And here you see the first dashboard that we worked on, and that was that live event where a couple of famous people were sitting in the audience here from Manchester United, Barcelona, the German national team. They were all watching back then when we presented these live analytics here. And then it took up German media. It was in the news in the evening. More interviews came from other TV stations. And what makes everybody in Germany proud is if you relate it to something even bigger. So we work with a national team, and it's not that thing here that you see with these sensors, but there was some parts of it evolved into a system that has been used in the championships when Germany won the World Championships in 2014. So we did a little tiny bit to help the German squad to win the championships in 2014 in Brazil. So
that's pretty cool. So you pretty much took the analytics of the player and the ball speed and all that, and his.
Exactly. When you look at this very first dashboard today, we would challenge that with some design critique. For example, that crazy radar chart, not good, don't do it. But when I talk about that dashboard, you see you have a bunch of people here. You can select a player, then you see the mileage, how far did this player run on the squad, the maximum speed, average time of ball contact. That is an important KPI. When you see it here, when he was training the youth squad, it is almost, I used to play handball. It's a game that in Europe, not so much in America, but it's way faster than football. But nowadays football is so quick, so average time of ball contact, they just bip, 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 play the ball as fast as they can. Then the amount of ball contacts in a certain amount of time. Then stopping or acceleration. That is something important for the physio guys, the doctors, basically, that you don't hurt yourself and you don't get overworked. And that is like a profile for a certain player, for a forward player or a midfielder. And that was the idea behind this. And we had also a 3D sequence that we played at this very event, working with Crytek. That is a German company. They built the Cry, and maybe some people in the audience, they know Far Cry, these computer games. Like we worked together with those people to do some 3D visualizations back then. Yeah, that's
cool. See, now if I built a dashboard, so my sales manager would only be interested in sliding scale or being able to be interactive with the dashboard and see performance. So same idea here. You could do if maybe he was a little faster, what would happen? So you can make interactive dashboards, right?
Yes. I don't know if I say a few words and I hand over to you, Melanie. So when we worked on SAC, or when we worked on the book for the users of SAC, and I said it, that communication, peak end rule, personas, user types are very important. And it is not here in this example as well, it is not that you have a paper basically, or newspaper where you can read through the data. Usually nowadays we have interactive dashboards where we work with filters, where we can drill down. Probably not so much in this example, because Julian had this at an iPad and he could click, but not too much interaction. But imagine you are sitting in front of your computer or your mobile phone, and now you get the latest data on COVID or vaccination. You want to drill down what is happening in your area, for example. That is a common use case, a filter path, where you say that is the US, that is Europe, that is Germany, but what is happening in my area, in my city? So how many people are vaccinated? How many? How is the incidence back, close to where I live? Basically, that is a great example where everybody wants to have an interactive dashboard to drill down.
That's pretty cool. Okay, my dashboard will be interactive and pink.
Sure.
That's what it'll be about, but I'm gonna start working on my charting skills. And design and layout, and so as a parting thought, what do you think you should tell your audience? What would you tell everybody listening? What's the newest? Is there something new coming out? What do you want them to know? Good one, huh?
Any idea, Melanie? Shall I?
That is good. I mean, one part is, if you create dashboards, create it with the rules in our book and stick to them. Read the book. I think that is one key message. Nico, do you have more?
Yeah, just in general. So I, for sure, working for SAP, writing a book with SAC dashboard design. Use our products, but in general, honestly, we are living in times where data is so important, and where so many people neglect the truth behind data. So I just urge everyone in this call outside, get into data science, be it as a designer, a data scientist, use whatever tool you can get. If you have lots of SAP applications, and if you want to connect planning and BI, then SAC is probably the right choice. But if you don't have any application, you can use Excel, you can draw it on your paper. Just get crazy about data, because there are so many people out there that are not living by the facts and have alternative truth and so on. And that is something we, with our knowledge, and you, when you get hands on data, we can cure basically. So get crazy about data and dashboard design.
Yay! Data drives everything, I'm telling you. If you don't have data, you don't have nothing. But you can still create a very beautiful dashboard there with colors. But again, you guys are great. Look, I love the book. So everybody can pick this up. Go to SAP Press. We have a code, so you can get some discount on there. And I think it's book code 15, I believe it is. And we will, our next book is going to be, we're going to go technical. I believe we're going to have an ABAP book. So stay tuned on that. That'll be pretty cool. He's this crazy guy from Australia. But I'll tell you more about that later. But anyway, thank you guys, and thank you again, and thank you SAP Press and for allowing us, and thank you SAP for you guys coming in the middle of the night to our crazy book club. And if you haven't joined, everybody go and join the SAP book club, and that's pretty much it. And oh, again, I'm Kendall. If you don't know who I am, I'm Kendall. So I'm always around and I take crazy pictures. But anyway, thank you. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.